Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. Good evening, one and all. I'll be your host for tonight. I'm Joshua,
And I'm
and I have
John.
a good friend with me. His name is John.
Good evening.
And I'm just gonna wait a bit. I'm just gonna welcome everyone. Hope each and every one of you had a wonderful day and that you're able to sign on now. Make sure to share, invite a friend to come on board. All right, because we are live, guys. Welcome to Sincerely Her Story. And tonight it's going to be Sincerely His Story, a fresh twist podcast. Going to be all brothers tonight. So be sure to tune in, engage us, ask questions. All right. It's going to be an all male panel. Yeah. We have Jameson Riggs going to join us shortly. So I hope you guys are excited. I'm not seeing any comments, any likes. I didn't see nobody. So tonight we're going to talk about men and emotions. I know it's a great topic when men talk about their emotions. This is something that we do normally talk about. So I'm excited, guys, and I hope you are as well. Oh, I'm gonna wait till some other colleagues join us.
Joshua, where are you calling in from? Where are you broadcasting from?
Oh, I'm Trinidad. JC just said that we are live on YouTube.
Right, and
She's
I'm
getting
I'm in
Facebook.
I'm in the United States. I'm in Pennsylvania, which is
Okay.
sort of in the Northeast. It's considered the Mid-Atlantic area. Just it's pretty close to Washington D.C., about halfway between Washington D.C. and New York City.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Yes, I have cats.
That's the cat on your teacup there.
Absolutely.
uh, okay, John. So maybe I should just start with you. So, John, let's start. Let's chat a bit. So we are known, all right. We are told that men in society we are known to be strong, to be the backbone of the family, leaders, providers, protectors, and the whole 9 yards. All right, but we never really stop to zero in about what does men feel like. What about our feeling? How do we deal with our emotions?
Well, I can tell you about myself. Um, I, I I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not a therapist or whatever you want to call it, an
Yeah,
analyst. But everyone is different. Um, I've my background. I've dealt with a lot of people. I've worked from the ground up, so I've gotten to see how a whole bunch of different people get to relate to each other, as well as I've lived a little longer than you have, so I've perhaps known more people in different circumstances. There are no two people that are alike. There are no two people that really deal with themselves and with other people the
yeah,
same way. Um, Everyone has a different upbringing, different background, different makeup, who their core being is. So for me, it's difficult to grab hold of how I feel and be honest about it. Also, I mean, we hide from our. I found. I guess I shouldn't say we. Um, I hide from myself sometimes. Um,
yeah,
I've seen other people do it too. When people have, they believe that they are one way, but everyone else sees them another way.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not completely honest with ourselves, and I would
Mm,
imagine that we're not honest with our feelings either. For
yeah.
myself, I was in denial about a lot of things for a lot of years, about the way I felt about things, um, and it hit me hard because your mind really does control your body, and
Indeed,
your emotion.
indeed.
Yeah,
John,
and your emotional
John,
part of it.
John, just hold up right there. I just feel as though we're giving them too much too quick, and this is too good. John, here's what. Just tell me, right, before we go deeper into what you're saying here, because I'm already starting to get excited. And look, we have Jameson Riggs on tonight. So, John, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Just introduce yourself to the audience tonight, and then we're gonna dive back into what you're saying, because I'm excited already. Talk to us,
Okay,
John. Tell us
all
who
right.
you are, where you're from. Tell us about yourself,
I
and then James, the same.
Okay, I just retired this past year. I've been in the food business all my life, and that is a great deal of who I am. But that's really not too deep about who I am. I'm a person who has 4 daughters, and let me tell you something. It's very difficult not to be emotional when you have 4 daughters, especially when they start going out with boys or whoever they're going out with. I care very deeply about my family. As I'm sure both of you gentlemen do as well. Uh, and I do anything that I could to protect them and to help them along. I have had a great deal of activity within my community. I with charitable organizations, through volunteer fire department as a first responder, um, as well as other organizations as well. I like staying physically fit. I think being physically fit has helped me to better understand myself, because I used to run. Now I go for long, fast walks, very long walks, hiking, and it allows me
Nice.
to stay in touch with myself. So I like to feel that I'm as honest with myself as possible because of that.
It's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, John. And we have the man, Jameson Riggs, on tonight. So, Jameson, tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from. Just talk to us. Introduce yourself to the audience here tonight.
Hi, everyone. Hi, good night to all our viewers. Joshua, it's always a pleasure, to have any kind of dialogue with you. I mean, we came from very far. Uh, we were childhood friends. We are still friends. I mean, it's so many memories together from Guaya and in the circular and so on with Joshua. So it's always a pleasure to have any kind of discourse or dialogue with you.
Indeed.
John, it's so nice to meet you, John. you know, um, and the fact that you are associated with JC, and I was very pleased to have met you, John, virtually. And I think that you are a person, from just listening to you, you are a person who have so much to deliver. So
Well,
I
thank
just wanted to say it's a pleasure to be in this forum with you, gentlemen. All right.
thank you.
Um, who
Indeed.
who am I? Who am I? My name is Jameson Riggs. To all the viewers out there, I come from the rural community of Guayari, deep south in Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up in very humble beginnings. However, I always try to be the type of person who always takes the lead in terms of positivity and leading persons into the right direction. I
Yes.
place a lot of emphasis on my community in Guayari in terms of the social aspect, and trying to assist persons to be on the right path, trying to do whatever is necessary to help to develop the community of Guayari and Mayaro by extension. So with that, I've been involved in quite a number of initiatives, quite a number of community initiatives in terms of sport and culture, so many things. I have held top positions in sport and football in Trinidad and Tobago. I am well known in the country for being one of the advocates for the betterment of football and bringing ideas from a youthful perspective to the football landscape in Trinidad and Tobago, and also trying to ensure that persons and organizations develop themselves in a strategic type of way so that they can seek the full benefit of what they are doing. So this is me. This has been my life, basically devoting myself to community activity. I have a job, a professional job. By profession, I am a logistics coordinator and inventory supervisor. This is what pays my salary. Anything else is basically voluntary, and it's me giving back to the community, giving back to my country, giving back to my people. And I always believe that my blessings come from God. I am a firm believer of God. I pray a lot in good situations, in bad situations. I do a lot of praying. So I am a devoted type of person. As young as I look, I have I have 4 children. Yeah.
I was waiting for this one.
Yes, as young as I look, I have 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. All right. My eldest son is 20 years old. So
Wow.
if you want, you can use that mathematics to guess how old I am. I will not tell you. And the youngest baby, we still call him a baby. He is 5 years old. That's Zachary, with the person with the biggest personality in the world, Zachary. So I am married to the most beautiful, gorgeous woman in the world. Her name is Wendy. We have been married for 7 years. Yeah. So, and we try to keep a close and tight ship in terms of our family relations and how we carry about ourselves home and outside the home and so on. So yeah, I think that sums up Jameson. I have a little bit of education, so I may not I may not say things that will be in everyone's favor, but I always try to speak from an informed point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, according to research data, all right, and this is taken from Men's Line Australia, all right, and it says the restriction of emotional expression in many men's lives can lead to a greater sense of isolation, less support being available from loved ones, health issues due to carrying chronic tension in the body and other bad coping strategies, relationship difficulties due to an inability to resolve emotional conflicts, and or a perceived lack of ability to be intimate, yeah, and psychological problems such as depression, insomnia, and anxiety. Now, I know we all know that even as young men, when a boy cry, we say, "Don't cry, be a man, don't cry." And these are the things we say to young men as though we should not have emotions. We were told to be a man, to be a provider, a protector, to be everything except cry, except show our emotions, express, but as men, we can agree that we go through a lot of stuff. So I want to ask a question tonight. Being a man, do you find it challenging to cope with strong emotions? And feel free to go which one of you want to talk. Well, Jameson just introduced himself. So John, you could take that away and then Jameson will give us his 2 cents on it.
Well, I guess you can add one more thing to what you were saying. Man up.
All of them, man up.
Wow. Yeah. I was never taught to suppress emotions. We learn a lot growing up. We learn mostly by example. It's the same as in management and when you work, it's leadership by example. And whether we want to or don't want to, we are imprinted upon by our parents. My stepfather, I lived with my mom and my stepdad since I was 8.5 years old, because my parents got divorced when I was 6. But my stepdad suppressed most positive, what would be considered to be positive emotions. He was a very aggressive person, and he was a very angry person. Perhaps it's because he didn't learn how to express his emotions properly. That's conjecture, but yeah. I've noticed that with other people too. So starting from a very young period, I've seen what you were describing as true, as well as with other people too. I've known a lot of people. Now, my stepfather, for instance, he was a policeman, and until he was 45 when he retired. And there are a lot of police that are very macho. Maybe not today as much in this country. I've been to Trinidad. It seems that it's really that way still in Trinidad. But there's a point where if you don't express yourself in this country, the rate of suicide, the rate of mental illness for police is pretty high. I don't know if that's because of a lack of expressing emotion. There's a lot of trauma that is dealt with, seen by police, and even with firefighters, where I was associated. And expressing emotion is now considered to be part of what you have to learn to do as someone who helps other people, because you can't really help someone unless you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, expressing yourself, things of that sort. So I learned, unfortunately, many things that I consider to be not very good, not very healthy for emotional purposes. But I've had to unteach that to myself, reprogram myself. I sometimes catch myself doing something that I would say, God, I really hated that when my parents did that. Do you ever do that? Really? And as I recognize it, as I become cognitive of what's going on, I try to correct that and not do it. And I've been pretty successful at it. Certainly not 100%. And I think I have a long way to go, probably a longer way to go than I have time to live, in order to get myself to be much better.
Yeah. Awesome. So Jameson, tell me, so being a man, do you find it challenging to cope with strong emotions?
Joshua, definitely. I believe that, as men, all right, we sacrifice to, think about logic on so many different things. However, from very young, we have been trained, to ignore our emotions. Yeah. I believe that from a very young and tender age, those persons are around us who were mainly responsible for, the upbringing of young boys and so on. They kind of taught us in different ways to suppress our emotions, and you see, the thing is that men have emotions, whether we like it or not. We do have emotions, whether we want to try and avoid them. We do. We have many emotions that are more or less pent up inside, whether it's good emotions or bad emotions, and they are the emotionally avoidant guys. So those are the guys basically who avoids, actually being true to their emotions. And you find that with that sense of suppressing yourself, suppressing oneself, you find that there is a lot pent up inside that you generally don't know and understand how to deal with it. So I believe that yes, we do suppress our emotions, maybe for the reason that we don't know how to deal with them because we haven't been taught how to deal with them properly from a very tender age. So yeah.
Right, right. Wow. Let me just read some more statistics for you guys. In 2020, it says that men died by suicide 3.88 times more than women. Yeah, on an average, that's on an average of 130 suicides per day. All right, and it was a count. You see, you mentioned being like suppressing your emotions and not being able to express it. But if you really take a Coca-Cola, and you keep it capped and you shake it up, and then under that pressure, you open it. What happens? It just and
Explode.
just
So
man, like that.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
need to, if you crack this cover, you begin slowly, slowly,
yes.
slowly. But we just and this is why these statistics are what it is. And we have men lashing out in society and turning into violence and stuff. But we are not like that. Thank you, Jesus. All
So
right.
and if I'm to add to that, Joshua, and you are quite
Yeah.
right. The statistics in terms of the suicide rate as compared to women. You see, suppressed emotions, right, can really cause physical impairment, psychological and physical impairment, so that you know this type of let's say stifled behavior can lead to a downturn in your physical and psychological ability. So once that is taking place and the body doesn't know how to deal with it, then the body goes into a more or less depressed state.
Yeah.
And severely depressed people tend to turn to suicide acts and acts of grievance and violence and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I I understand how that cycle works. And when you look back at persons who would have committed suicide, men who would have committed suicide, then it leads to a trail of psychological and physical impairment. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I wanna ask John a question. John, I wanna ask you a question. So most men do not realize that they are suppressing their emotions. Do you, John, believe that you may be living a life of suppression your emotion? Do you believe that?
Oh, not anymore. But I found something out pretty interesting. It's and I'll elaborate on that in a moment. But
Yeah,
for
no
every
problem.
for every study, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but for every study, there's also another study, perhaps a contradicting study. Because back in 2010, there's a publication called Personality and Individual Differences, and that was in 2010, and it came to the conclusion that suppression of emotional expression has been associated with depressive symptoms. However, men suppress emotions more than women, but women experience more symptoms of depression. And with greater acceptance of emotions, suppression was related to more depressive symptoms in men, but with fewer depressive symptoms in women. And the findings suggest that suppressing emotions may have different functions and may be more useful for understanding depressive symptoms in men rather than women. So I'm not saying what you said was wrong. It's just that different studies come up with different results.
Yeah.
As far as my suppressing emotions goes, I used to suppress emotions, and it really did. I didn't realize I was doing it. uh, as I said earlier, some people they believe they are one way, and you ask everyone else how this person is, they all have a unanimous decision that this person is XYZ, and the person that they're talking about doesn't have that at all. They believe completely the opposite. So it's really difficult for a person to be honest about it, about themselves. And I was not honest with myself. And I had a pretty good depressive episode just after 2001, at the end of 2001. And I completely shut down. I was unable to function normally. I had to leave my job for a while. And it's like you said with the Coca-Cola bottle. All of a sudden it got let out. And it just completely knocked me out. So, it's much better to learn how to deal with your emotions and get an honest outside opinion, a counselor, someone, even if you think you're perfectly healthy. Just like you probably go to a doctor every year for a physical exam. It should not be shameful for a man to go to a doctor or a trained counselor for an emotional checkup as well.
Yeah. Wow. So I've done some research, and this is taken from Men's Line Australia again, and they talk about getting in touch with your emotions, right? And they talk about some strategies for getting to know your feelings better, right? And one of those strategies was be aware of the sensations in your body. Emotions always manifest somewhere in the body. Anger might be experienced as a flush of heat in the face, sadness as a tightening of the throat, anxiety as a knot in the stomach, right? And they said to take a moment to acknowledge these feelings, and take a few breaths to help identify these sensations and understand what they mean. Yeah. So let me see if I can give you guys another question here. And but Jameson, you have anything you just want to share in the interim?
Well, you see, now personally, and
Yeah.
as John said, I didn't know how to deal with emotions, because I believe that the environment that which I came from, are mostly around persons who would have tried to be, the boys need to be tough, right? So you need to be less expressive, right? And that environment caused me to not be able to understand what an emotion really is. And you find that in cases, and a lot of us men do it, in cases, we may say that we feel stressed instead of we are scared, right? So when you are scared, you are saying that you are feeling stressed. So that displacement in terms of the understanding and the rhetoric in terms of what the real emotional feeling is, it's very, very misconstrued and misunderstood by most men. And you, in expressing yourself to others, we always utilize the wrong word because we still suppress the correct feeling that we are really trying to express, that we really should be expressing. So we use words that will still keep us in the light in terms of not showing ourselves as being weak, and rather showing ourselves as, being a person of character and strength. So we are sad, but then we say we are stressed, right? And there are many other examples where this is the case, So I have been, that had been something that I have done on many occasions, until I realized that emotional distress has a serious effect on, how I go about my day-to-day life. it affects a lot of what I am doing. And you find that I am unable to produce and perform at my best because of a particular emotional distress that I haven't been able to deal with because I probably didn't know how, or I probably was just suppressing that emotion. So,
Yeah.
it's a kind of a complicated situation. However, once we pay particular attention to it, I believe
Yeah.
we should be able to know and understand how really to deal with it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So thank you, Jameson. I recognize in the chat, John just turned it up a little, you know. So we are on another level. We just elevated to level 2. So let me ask a question. And I know each of you are in relationships. All right. What if your wife does not understand what you are feeling, or vice versa? John, with your experience, with your wealth of experience, talk to us.
Oh gosh, my experience is different than yours, than anyone's.
I'll share
I mean,
mine also. Don't worry.
first, do you have any idea what it's like to be married to a woman who comes from Trinidad and Tobago? I mean, it's people from people from different countries express emotions differently. The morals of one country could be different than the other.
Yeah.
That's not to say that people are bad in one country or good in another country. It's just that the norms of how to express yourself, the way you act, even body language, are different from one country to another. I have found in my marriage, it's a continuous learning and growing experience. And my wife is very sensitive to the way I feel, perhaps more so than I am to myself. I found that Trinidadian women, for instance, are much more open and honest with their feelings. I mean, they're right there. It's put right in front of you, especially when there's displeasure. I mean, you know when your wife is upset. It's not like I'm hiding it, you know. We work on it constantly, and we never give up on each other. And that's not to say there isn't temporary frustration because we don't understand emotionally what we're saying to each other. It's a temporary thing because our love carries us through, and we recognize that we just don't understand what we're trying to say to each other sometimes, what we're trying to feel with each other sometimes, and that's probably important to anyone, which is that you have to sincerely want to understand not just the words the person you're involved with is saying, but what they're expressing. Not what they're saying, but what they're expressing. Because sometimes I could say something or my wife could say something, and what she's saying is not what I hear. So I have to listen on a different level. I have to feel on a different level.
Wow.
Wow.
No. You see, I just learned so much, and I know
Hey, I
these
was about to say the same
tonight.
thing.
Yeah, I know these viewers here tonight are learning also because I'm young. I'm young in my marriage. I've been married for like about 4 years now, and how do I express my emotions? Sometimes, even though I'm married for 4 years to my wife, it's very difficult. And sometimes I always, you know what I do sometimes? Well, not sometimes, all the time. I try to distract how I feel. I try to distract how I feel by occupying myself doing other things. And I am hurting, and my wife may not even know. And I know she's listening tonight, so I guess she will know now. But there are things that I try to occupy myself doing so that it distract the way how I feel but the feeling doesn't go away, guys. The feeling doesn't go away. And I may call someone or express how I feel to that person, but I will never come to my wife. I mean, maybe I will. Let me don't say never. Maybe I will, but not at the point. And that is something I sometimes struggle with, and that is very depressing. So Jameson, confess.
First, first, I have to say that I learned in that too that do I learned a lot from John and his statement there. And
Yeah.
I am more happy that I'm on this show tonight, on this program tonight, because I think I could take some of that into my relationship also. Now,
Hmm.
let me say good evening to all the Trini women out there. You ladies are beautiful and wonderful, and we could never do it without you. Um, Now,
Amen.
I have to say that my wife knows me pretty well. Not My wife knows me sometimes I think better than I know myself. So you find that
Hmm.
emotions that I may not be able to express and speak to, she will outright say, I know you are feeling this type of way. Or I know this is what it is going to feel like to you, right? And she would use the right set of words, pick from the correct word basket to place those words on my chest and 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 leave me wondering, where am I and what part of the circle I am in now, because my wife will speak exactly and precisely to how I feel when I myself didn't wasn't even understanding how I am feeling. And this is how good she knows me, how well she knows me. And I believe that women, our Trini women, they have um, some kind of device that helps them to learn and understand us men better than we can. I firmly believe that. so in our relationship, and although we've been married for 7 years, we have been together probably about 15 years or so. So our relationship, we are very, very close with each other. And um before I speak, she is able to say how I feel on most situations. And you find that I myself, sometimes I could speak to how she feels also about certain situations. But even if I try to suppress my emotion, my feeling, that turns out to be null and void because she already knows the emotion, the feeling, right? So you find that I would just try to sometimes play it down a little bit, or on most occasions I would shelve it, right? Just as Joshua was speaking, and I call that, there's a word for that, um, compartmentalization, right? That is how I call that,
Yes.
compartmentalization. So you find that the situation now, I may have to file it, put it aside for another time, right? So I may have something important to deal with, and I will possibly shelve this emotion because I believe that, I may not be sure about what effect it will have on what I am about to do. So I shelve it, I compartmentalize it, and come back to
Hmm.
it another time and
Make
deal
a
with
note.
it another time. And there and then I
Wow.
am open. I am more free to speak. I am more free to express. And at
Yeah.
that time, it's kind of like a phase of venting and getting it out. You actually feel good after that. You actually feel as if, a weight has been lifted. So expressing emotions is actually healthy. It's actually a healthy act. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's amazing. So tell me something. Tell me something, guys. In your opinion, do you think that a lot of men suffer from mental illnesses in silence because of suppressed emotions?
Well, yeah, I feel so. I can't say I'm sure of it. I don't have any data to back that up.
Yeah.
But any more so or any less so than women? I don't know. I mean, there's so much anecdotal information. I don't have data, so my feeling is yeah, absolutely. There are people, but it depends on what do you mean by mental illness. Could you define that for me? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what is mental illness? And there's psychosis, there's neurosis. There are probably lots of other stuff. Ask my sister. See, she's a psychologist. I'm not. But what is mental illness? Is it being unbalanced?
All right.
I mean, so one last thing. It's
Right.
like there's a difference between being depressed and having depression. Okay, so I think everyone suffers from not being able to express their emotions properly. It's my belief.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's a health
you
condition
know,
involving changes in the emotions, thinking, or behavior. That's like a mental illness. Go ahead, Jameson.
yeah. So I mean, according to John, there are numerous data surrounding mental health and so on and so forth. However, we cannot shy away from the fact that a lot of mental illness has to do with emotional displacement. Yeah. And the funny thing is that, research has shown that young boys, are more emotionally expressive than their female peers. However, on the flip side of that, men are less expressive, are less emotionally expressive than their female peers, than women. So somewhere along the line in growing up, the behavior changes in terms of our mental capability to really tip the scale in terms of the young boys being more expressive, more emotionally expressive than the young girls, to men being less emotionally expressive than women, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, there have been some kind of shifting of the goalposts in terms of changing of the emotions, and something have have been causing that, right? So I don't
Yeah,
have
definitely.
the research and the data to show what are the causes, what are the true causes of that disparity. And then all that to say with the understanding that young boys would have grown up, would have grown with persons who would have not been able to really teach them how to express themselves emotionally. Yeah. So it's a lot to think
Yeah.
about.
Yep, definitely. But let me bring this question home to you guys, and it's a question that John threw out here for us. What do you do when your wife does not meet your expectations? How do you express it without drawing anger from her or in a sensitive manner, or vice versa?
Well, first off, let me take this. Let me jump the gun before you this time, John. That is
I need
that's
advice.
probably, yeah. If I am to put, yeah, if I'm to put any statistic to that or any data to that, that is probably like a 1% of the times, um, because I always try to learn from her, because those occasions are very rare in terms of anything that I probably may not be too happy about, or displeased about, based on her actions, right? That is very far and in between. So I don't have too much skills in terms of dealing with that type of situation. However, I am the type of husband that doesn't like, I like resolve, right? I like quick resolve, um and I am a very good listener, and likewise I'm a very good talker. So we are very, very comfortable with each other. So if there is something that is not what I really expected, is against my expectations, I would, raise the conversation in a very subtle, calm way, because I don't want it to get into an argument, or I wouldn't want to be misunderstood or anything like that. So, I need to start the conversation, because I wouldn't want her to not have the knowledge, and then it happens again and again and again. So I will start the conversation, and we would have some kind of discourse about it until we come to a resolve, right? Once, we have this saying in Trinidad and Tobago here, that teeth does bite tongue, right? And teeth and tongue does fall out. So
Yeah.
anytime voices start to go up, we usually take a time out, right? And find our quiet place and our calm, and then we will return to the discussion. That space of time will, teach us what really was happening, in terms of something that I may have said in the mix, or the way I might have bring it across may not have been the right way. So now I could come back and rephrase that, apologize, and then we go again until we resolve, right? And this is generally how, as a man, as a husband, I really try to deal with things, on the wife side of things, instead of, trying to be macho and being harsh and boisterous, and, being over dominant, um, towards
You
my
learn to
wife.
humble
I
yourself.
don't be that way at all. Yeah, I know I learn to humble, and try to resolve the situation, or let her know that I am not too happy, or of whatever it is that she may have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's really awesome. John, anything there?
Well, I asked the question. I can't be expected to answer my own question. No, well, as I said, it's a constant learning experience. I mean, every situation comes up as new.
Yeah.
It sounds like Jameson really has it really together, and you have a real good understanding with your wife. And we, in my relationship with my wife, we understand each other better and better all the time. There is a serious respect that we have for one another, and I have to tell you honestly, my wife is probably a lot more understanding with me than I am with her. She just for all the reasons that we mentioned, being more in touch with my emotions than I am, many times, perhaps most of the time. It's something that sometimes I don't realize what comes out of my mouth, and it's not due to purposely wanting it to come out, and it's not due to any real negative part of me, but it's just the way I express myself. And she's a lot more understanding about that. Sometimes that when it happens the other way around, it takes me a bit longer to be understanding, but we continue to try. And she has a lot of strength, so I try to take that in and own it myself.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, for me, I think with regards to expectation, I try not to have too much expectations from my wife, because I believe that expectations, it leads to disappointment. If there's something, if there is something to be done, and I'll just do it myself rather than I expect it to be done. And if it's not done, I come like I offend myself. So I tend to try to, I mean, I'm not perfect to say I always try to put everything in order, so that if it's not in order, I crucify her for that. No, but I try not to think. However, we are business partners, and there are times when I do have expectations, and because of other things being a priority, it isn't, and that isn't met. Then sometimes you ever got so angry that you just laugh? Like you can't even get vexed. You just get so angry and you you know so that happens a lot, because it just don't even make sense. You beat up about it, you just let it go and have a laugh at it. Sometimes I see myself, my wife and I, we may have an argument, and when we watch each other, I'm looking at her and she's looking at me, and then we just laugh, because it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, um um we it's very easy for some men to express their emotions, and as John said, his wife understands it, and understands him a lot. And I think for my wife, I think she maybe don't totally understand that. She understands little but not much, and maybe it comes in time. Yeah, because it's only 4 years. We know each other for like about 5 years. So maybe in time she'll understand something is wrong. I know something is definitely wrong. This isn't Joshua, And I guess with time. So let me just ask you guys another question. And so do you think men make bad decisions because they do not know how to control, maintain, or express their healthy emotions? What are your thoughts on
Could you repeat that question, please?
that? Do you think men make bad decisions because they do not know how to control, maintain, or express their healthy emotions?
Jameson, why don't you answer that first?
Sorry?
I was going to ask Jameson to answer that one first.
Let me just say or do men make better decisions because of suppressed emotions? It's a or, neither or. You want me repeat it, or you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I understand the question.
Yeah.
I don't think that somehow I don't think not I firmly believe that men generally don't make better decisions because of suppressed emotions. Yeah. I believe that we generally would, as you were giving us the example with the bottle before, Joshua, I firmly believe that we bottle a lot inside, and once that bottle is filled to capacity, eventually it explodes. So think about, you have a room full of closed boxes. Yeah, you have a house full of closed boxes. So you keep having these sealed boxes all and throwing them all over the house until the house is filled to capacity with all these boxes. It's just filled. It can't take any more boxes. Eventually, you will have to open these boxes to remove whatever is in these boxes because you need to make space. So similarly, with all different type of emotions, just sealed inside, and eventually there will be no more room for these bottled emotions. So eventually you will need to open some of these emotions. And then if you don't understand what these emotions are, what type of emotion it is, how to deal with that type of emotion, then those same bottled up emotions coming out at let's say a misunderstood rate, it definitely can affect your decision making. So like I was making the example earlier, not understanding that I am really sad and saying that I am stressed is two totally different explanations. And if I am thinking that I am stressed, whereas I am sad, and I have a decision to make, thinking that I am making a stressful decision, whereas I didn't deal with the sadness that I was feeling, then how could I make an informed decision when I don't even understand what emotion that I am putting into that decision, right? So I believe that it has a more negative effect when we bottle our emotion, when we don't express our emotions and we keep them pent up inside, as opposed to us more a more positive outcome. Yeah.
Well, in keeping with what you said, I pretty much agree. There's some people. It's funny. I was reading some information before the show started the other day. It was one study that used Star Trek as a basis of study about not expressing emotions and showing Mr. Spock, Data, the android. If you guys aren't familiar with Mr. Spock, he was an unemotional character, and it was just too absurd. I didn't want to quote anything from that study, but I believe that it depends. There some people, there are men, for instance, that make bad decisions, because emotions will cloud them. For instance, I've known people in work that get involved with someone at work, and they're one of the principals of the company, and they make a decision regarding their emotional partner, the partner they're involved with, rather than considering what the situation really is. There tends to be weight put to making that person happy. So in that particular case, having emotions taking part in the decision is not necessarily very good. However, in general, and that's a specific case, but in general, I believe that having as much information as possible before making a decision is an important part of making a decision. It's the only way to make a decision, especially in business and certainly in a personal relationship. And if you don't know where you are emotionally, if you don't know how your emotions are affecting your decision, if you don't know what you're feeling at the time you're making a decision, then you have not made the best decision you possibly can.
Wow.
I quite agree.
So I mean, wow. So if you had, and we are at our last minute here, but if you had an opportunity to speak to a group of men who had made bad decisions based on their emotions, what would you say to them?
Learn from your mistakes. I mean, making a bad decision is part of learning. Making a bad decision is a very important part of learning. But you have to recognize that you've made a mistake, being honest with yourself, perhaps getting input from other people. And then you have to, the most difficult part is probably breaking out of old habits, because making a bad decision could probably repeat itself just based upon you make a future decision because you've been programmed to do things a certain way. You have to break out of that, and you have to learn from your mistake and correct it for the next time, and make it a habit to learn from bad decisions.
Awesome. Guys, we have reached our hour, all right, and we try not to carry on the session over the hour. But I want to say thank you so much for Jameson and John for sharing here tonight, for joining me. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the viewers. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what we have to say. You didn't have to, but you choose to, and we do appreciate that much. The video is here. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday. Men and emotions. We don't talk about it, but when we do, it is powerful. Let's talk more. All right, let's talk more. Maybe you have a brother, maybe you have a father, maybe you have a sister that you haven't spoken to in a long while. Just call them up. Express your emotions. Don't suppress it. Come on, talk about it. All right, so we're going to see you guys next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Thank you so much for joining. Sincerely, her stories are fresh and new twist. God bless you all and have a wonderful evening. John, Jameson, thanks a lot. All right.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
it
sure.
was a pleasure.
Thank you for hosting, and Jameson, thank you for your insightful points of view.
Oh, same to you, John. I learned quite a lot from you this evening. Yeah.
Awesome. Have a